In 2023, a crack commando unit of retro podcasters joined forces on a panel at LA Comic-Con, but were sent to Comic-Con jail for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped. Today, still wanted by 80s nerds, they are very easy to find. If you have an 80s nostalgia problem, if no one else can help, maybe you can hire the Night Boyz.
This is a story of heroic deeds and the bitter struggle for the triumph of good over evil, and of a wondrous sword wielded by a mighty hero when the legions of darkness stalk the land.
All right, so 80s Kids Unite, it's July. It is, well, we're 1 month removed from Masters of the Universe coming out in the theaters, and we're recording this before that, so none of us have seen it.
But we loved it, though.
But it was amazing.
It's awesome.
Thank
the
gods.
Probably great.
It was probably, yeah. And we had we've been having some great special guests on the show. And as Night Boyz, me, Zach, Corey, and Wayne, Wayne's celebrating his 1 year Night Boy anniversary with us. Wayne, it's really special.
I can't wait to see the watch I get. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's plastic.
It's Swatch watch, buddy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's gonna leave like a stain.
Yeah.
It might kind of stain your skin, but it's worth it. Totally worth it. And but besides that, besides our Night Boy celebrating his 1 year anniversary with us, Steve Kostanski is joining us. Steve Kostanski, who, whether you know or not, has created one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Dungeons and Dragons Sword and Sorcery movie of the last 20, 30 years, in my opinion. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Wow, that's a ringing endorsement for my Deathstalker film. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on the show with you fellow 80s boys. This is very exciting.
Yeah, you're an honorary Night Boy now, right, Corey?
That's right. And if you've been listening to the shows, we've had a couple people connected to Steve on interviews. We've talked to Paul Lazenby, who played Joe Tech in Deathstalker. Just a fantastic villain in that movie. And then we had Martin from Blitz Berlin. I think he's going to be on this month, right? We're going to be dropping it this month. So that'll be either out right now by the time you're listening to this, or will be coming out very, very soon. But yeah, we are celebrating all things Deathstalker. And then usually on Podcasting After Dark and $2 late fee, we celebrate all things Steve Kostanski because we are big, big fans. So thank you again for coming on, Steve. This is fantastic.
Well, I'm very excited to dive into some fantasy talk with you guys. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, before we do that, I just have to say, so Steve has made quite a few movies that we obviously love: Frankie Freako, Psycho Goreman, Deathstalker, Manborg, and because this is called 80s Kids Unite, and we were kids obviously of the 80s and 90s. My son, who is now a kid of this generation, he watches a lot of the content that we talk about on the show, and I showed him Deathstalker. We've watched that together 3 times now, and
Whoa.
He just he whistles the theme song, and which is brings a tear to my eye. And the fact that if anybody hasn't seen Deathstalker, and it's officially out in a nice deluxe 4K set with the original Deathstalker and Deathstalker 2. It's gonna blow your mind, everybody. Sincerely.
It's the fact that it's in a box set with 1 and 2. Anybody who hasn't seen any Deathstalkers, if they buy that set and marathon them back to back, that's going to be one hell of a tonal whiplash for those people. I think that's part of what I love about the franchise, is that it's just, each movie is its own weird little microcosm, like its own little universe. And that was my reason for wanting to make a Deathstalker movie, was because I was like, I feel like there's not a lot of obsession over the lore of this fantasy universe, whereas, you know, if I took on some other bigger property, your hands would be tied. But Deathstalker, there's just such a freedom in this sandbox to kind of do whatever, and so I was able to really indulge in my sensibilities, which are, as you can see behind me, is just monsters, and more monsters.
And
I
for
love it.
anyone out there who hasn't seen Steve's Deathstalker, it came out in 2025 with Daniel Barnhart, and you are aware of Deathstalker 1 and 2, fear not, you can show it to your kids. It lacks all the problematic elements from the 80s versions. It doesn't have any nudity or any of the very, very aggressive, non-consensual sex like the originals do. So it is remarkably kid-friendly for a rated R movie.
Well, I think that's also just my aesthetic now that I lean into, is like, I like the idea of making stuff that scales back all those elements that to me read as kind of like cheap, easy solutions. Like, I think it was Jim Wynorski's quote of like, tits are the cheapest special effect. And so, yeah, for me, it's like I wanted to kind of flip that script and be like, well, because I'm doing all the work for free, the cheapest special effect on my end is actually just making more and more monsters. So yeah, I wanted to pack it with all the stuff that I felt like the other movies were lacking, but at the same time, you treat them all as like one big package. So if you want the one that's got all the, you know, more shots with tits in them than without, then you can watch the first Deathstalker. And if you want more monster action, you can watch mine. They all exist in a big fun universe together.
Well, the nice thing about your version too is a lot of these movies that we're going to talk about, their covers didn't quite match what you saw on the inside. I'll say Conquest does. Conquest kind of got it right, but for the most part, they don't quite match those Boris Vallejo covers, the monsters you see. But your Deathstalker does. Like, he actually fights the cool monsters that you always wanted to see your protagonist fight in those old Sword and Sorcery movies. Now, yeah, you got the boobs in it, and of course, young little Sleazy C was happy about that back in the day. But I'm happy now to see the fun monsters that you're that are being featured in your film.
That really was my like MO with this movie, was like, I am gonna deliver that half of the poster that I didn't get when I was renting the movies. And yes, of course, Teenage Steve was like, sure, boobs are great. I guess that'll smooth over my issues with not getting the big troll monster in that Boris poster advertised on the first Deathstalker. But yeah, I just wanted to like with kind of all my movies, is I want to try to just deliver on the fantasy that was in my head as a kid walking through the video store. Like, what did I think I was going to get when I picked up this movie, and just trying to like make a representation of that. And that's 100% what my Deathstalker is.
Yeah, what Steve has created with his universe is what you hoped for in the 80s and 90s, didn't get, and now you're getting it. So it's kind of like the toys of the 80s and 90s that they have re-released now. You know, Masters of the Universe back in the day, I'm like, this doesn't look like the He-Man in the Filmation cartoon. This looks like another guy from like a generic Conan thing. But then now you can actually get the He-Man that looks just like the He-Man, or the Teela that looks just like the Teela from the cartoon. That was what I wanted. Or the G.I. Joes that you wanted back in the day. Duke with a big grin on his face. That Duke figure sucked, by the way, in the 80s. Like, it was the lamest one. And I'm like, he's the hero with this goofy look on his face. And then you watch the cartoon and he's a tough guy. Like, Corey was, by the way, was holding up an Evelyn and a Teela from the Filmation.
The Filmation, run. They look just like it. It's I love being a nerd in 2026 and having the money to buy all the toys that I wanted as a kid.
Well, let's nerd out. Let's nerd out with our Sword and Sorcery, because obviously in the 80s we didn't get I mean, it kind of makes sense. You know, if you played D&D, and we will do a proper D&D episode coming up later this year of, like, you know, Satanic Panic and whatnot. But when you played D&D, it was all in your head. It was all the fantasies that you created either on paper and pencil or with a 20-sided die and a couple of buddies in your house. And then when you put the movie on, you typically, for me, you put it on the background while you're playing D&D or with your toys, and it just added to the lore. But then if you sat down and watched the movie for what it was, you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. oh, I'm not getting the thing I wanted, and I'm getting too much of what I maybe don't want.
Well, is there too much?
Well, it depends.
Too much boobs.
Depends on where. Depends on how much your brother traumatized you in the 80s.
True,
Anyways, so we chose a kind of cavalcade, if you will. Sorry, Steve, I have to like keep myself from sounding like necromemca.
You're saying it
Easy
just
for you
like,
to say.
that was a perfect representation of what it was like being on set for Deathstalker. Anytime anyone had to say his name, and it was. I'm proud of the challenge I put on my casting crew.
Yeah, so thank you, and how dare you?
Yeah.
So not to sound like a creepy old man, but let's get into this because we chose movies that kind of span the sleaze monitor, from extreme to not so much. But we're gonna start with you. We asked you to pick a movie that you really love, Sword and Sorcery movie from the 80s, and you chose 1983's Conquest.
Conquest. An act of courage to conquer the Queen of Darkness. They faced the armies of evil to win the weapons of light. Feel the power. Accept the challenge of Conquest.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So this is like Fulci's one and only fantasy movie, and it's one of the few fantasy movies that it feels like it's leaning more into fantasy horror, which is a subgenre that I feel like is worth exploring more, and we didn't really get a lot of movies in that vein. I mean, I feel like the Sword and the Sorcerer had elements of, they all have like little hints of like going in a more horror direction. But this one I think is the most has the most like atmosphere, the most horrifying atmosphere. And I'm not just talking about the literal atmosphere of like every shot is full of smoke.
I was gonna say it's the one that has the most fog in it.
It's the smokiest movie I've ever seen, and the most Vaseline on the lens movie I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
totally.
It's like, to describe the plot, I don't even know really where to start. It's such a weird, dreamy kind of nonsense movie. But that's why I love it. I love that's like the guy that made The Beyond is like, yeah, I'll do like a Conan type movie, and this is what he came up with. I mean, it has lots of like weird cheesy stuff, like glowing arrows, and there's like kind of weird like muck men and stuff. Like there's lots of like creature stuff drifting around through the movie, and it delivers on the nudity as well. There's like a like gold masked topless lady that's like the main villain. I don't know, it's just like there's something about that movie I keep going back to because it just has there's just a vibe that I like to sink into. The score is great. I believe it's Claudio Simonetti did the score for it. I have it. I've got it on vinyl and I put it on regularly because it's just like weird, dreamy Italian nonsense. Yeah, I love it because it's weird. It doesn't feel, even if it's like maybe a little too slow for my tastes at times, and like a little abstract, and a little cheap, and that like, yeah, we spend a lot of time just in like a hazy kind of like nowhere zone. But yeah, the atmosphere and the vibes of it, I really like. I find it like kind of a chill, relaxing movie in a weird sort of way.
Oh, totally. Would you say that the Muckman in Conquest, or the Muckmen, was definitely influenced in Deathstalker for you?
I mean, I think my Deathstalker muck guys, my Swamp Boys, if I'm gonna pull from anywhere for my swampy guys, it's definitely Return of Swamp Thing, like Jim Wynorski's Swamp Thing.
Very good. Yeah,
because I just I would love to make a Swamp Thing movie at some point,
dude.
But that'll never happen.
I'd be there for that.
So that was my little bit of a nod to that, but I do think they speak to the broader subgenre of swampy muck boys that are always in these movies. I mean, they're even a little bit, I think, about like those guys in Spookies that are in the basement.
Yes.
Those farting blob guys. It's like I think I pulled a little bit from those guys as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Conquest just has lots of really weird, interesting imagery. that's worth checking out. I think it's worth putting on. It's a great party movie too, because you just have it on and people can like turn to it occasionally and be like, "What the fuck am I looking at?" It's like a lady writhing around. There's like a snake on her, and she's got a gold mask. It's yeah, I don't know, just great, weird fantasy stuff, and again, like closer, leaning more into the horror stuff because it's Fulci, and I think that gives it an interesting tone compared to the other stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's always been a fan of his Gates of Hell trilogy and everything. But I've always wanted to watch Conquest. It was nice having this, excuse to do it. And yeah, it's like, oh wow, this is definitely a Fulci film. It's got all the hallmarks of a Fulci film. And they even possibly, I think Lee pointed it out to me, the possible connection to The Beyond, with Mace having that tattoo on his forehead. It almost looks like the symbol from the Book of Iban from The Beyond. If it's not exactly, it looks damn close to it.
I believe it is the same symbol, and
Okay.
we actually so years and years ago, Astron 6 made a web series called Goreblade that was sort of a Deathstalker riff, but also a Conquest riff, and Matt Kennedy played a character in it where we actually like painted that symbol,
Nice.
that same Book
awesome.
of Avon symbol on his head, because we were just so into those movies at that time. So Conquest definitely is like an important part of the like Steve Kostanski Astron 6 history, because it's such a weird video oddity that I feel like nobody talks about, but is a very inspiring watch in how weird it is.
Wayne, did you watch this one in the waiting room getting your car fixed?
No, no. But the funny thing is, like the version of the movie that I saw, it seemed like it was a version that was like taken off of somebody's VHS recording of it.
The
right?
best version to watch, by the
Yeah.
way.
And so I'm watching it, and that completely explains the fogginess and and the because I'm watching it and I'm going, I wonder if they made this hard to watch on purpose, and but it really is one of those things where it is a perfect background movie to play if you're playing D&D or any kind of RPG, for that matter, or if you're just kind of like trying to set the mood. But the creatures in that movie, that's what made it for me. I loved watching, just the Muckman and like just all of that, just the look of it. Even, it's, to me, it was like, if it looks like it's coming off of a heavy metal van, then they're doing something
Totally.
right. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, they're really doing something right. So yeah, it was an interesting watch. I'm not completely sure what I watched at the end of it, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, I will say, if for those out there that are fans of Fulci and have never seen this, it is what you would expect with a Fulci movie. It's got the oozing, gross stuff, like the one point, veins pulsating and going into when like the poison is going through the one dude's body, and it's classic Fulci. I remember texting Corey and I'm like, wait, yeah, that's that symbol, and he's like, yeah, that's the symbol from The Beyond. So for me, Conquest is like it's the dream that one of the characters in The Beyond had while they were living down in New Orleans. It's that's what it felt like to me. And then they woke up and they're like, oh my God. By the way, and shout out to Cauldron Video, who puts out great Blu-rays and DVDs. They put out a Conquest box set, which actually has the cassette tape. They actually have a tapestry that they sell on their website, a Conquest tapestry, and the soundtrack on cassette as well. The special features on this box set are amazing, and it actually comes with a sticker pack. And I hope I don't get flagged on YouTube for this, because some of the stickers are very NSFW. In fact, you've got your lady gets ripped apart at one point in this, which is amazing and graphic as hell, but it's classic Fulci.
And those puffy stickers? They're like
puffy
actually
stickers.
Puffy
and actually you have a Fulci sticker. It's like artists inspired by like the Cracked magazine back in the day.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds
That's
me. I'm
what it
not
looks
mad.
like.
I was a Cracked guy, by the way. I loved Cracked more than
Yeah, me too. I was a crack
I'm
kid
pretty
over
sure.
on Mad.
I'm pretty sure YouTube searches for. I hope we don't get flagged by YouTube.
Yeah,
and then
Yeah,
that's what they look at.
100%.
I'm gonna cut that out. Yeah, and there's dolphins that save people in this. There's a wolf in this that totally reminds me of Altered Beast, the Sega game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is definitely was Altered Beast was inspired by Conquest. Had to be, right?
Love that.
I
was
would
gonna
think
say-
so.
Yeah.
One of the themes that Conquest started when we were talking about it is constantly in so many of these movies. I wasn't ready for the amount of bow and arrow action that was going on.
Yes.
So crucial. And again, because like my mind is going sword and sorcery, and I'm thinking I have the power or I've got the mind stone, like all of that stuff. And I was so excited to see as much bow and arrow as I saw in all of these movies.
Bow and arrow and nunchucks, right? That's what Mace has.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
Mace rules, by the way.
isn't okay. Full disclosure, it's actually been a little while since I watched this movie, but isn't there a moment where he says like, "My enemies call me Mace," and then the other guy's like, "What do your friends call you?" And he's like, "I don't have any friends." But then the next town over, people are like,
They're all his
"Mace,
friends."
how's it going?
Yeah.
Like he's like their best buddy. It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
not
your
his friends.
call you
Yeah.
Mace."
He's like high-fiving people. Hey, Mace, how's it going, pal? Yeah.
Yeah, Mace is that guy who talks shit about his friends after they leave. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so glad they're gone." They're like, "But it was your birthday, and they're there for you." Yeah, I hate all those people. Wait, what?
I was with Mace. I was getting vibes of I forgot his name in Zack and Fire and Ice, but the guy that wears like the wolf head type
Yeah,
of thing.
totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like
Dark
it's
Wolf.
like
Dark Wolf.
Yeah, Dark Wolf. And I was like, because I think the other kid is the main character in Conquest, but he eventually
Eyeless or Elis or yeah.
And it's the same with Fire and Ice. It's like, who's the main character here? Is it Dark Wolf? Is it the other guy? You know, it's an interesting thing, but I was definitely getting vibes. Mace was giving me vibes of that dude.
There's definitely the guy that you're watching, the guy who's the main character, and then the guy you want to be.
Right,
In
yeah.
all of these, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that is actually a through line we could track, is that a lot of these fantasy movies, they try to do the D&D thing of like they have like a party or a
Mhm.
team, and they get a little lost along the way as far as like, well, who am I supposed to actually care about in this thing? And I find like
Yeah.
consistently that seems to be a problem that I have, and that's when I get lost and my interest gets pulled away, is when I'm like, I don't really feel like I have a protagonist that I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, it's
Right.
not as simple as like a Deathstalker where it's like, well, Deathstalker's the guy, and you
Right.
kind of hang people off of him. But stuff like Conquest, it's always felt a little muddled to me as far as like what's the journey I'm going on here. And I think that's a symptom of just like the nature of fantasy stories, which is like, oh, it's like you always assemble a group and with different stats and go on an adventure.
Well, I think the best representation of that is Hawk the Slayer from our, I know, Zach, you're going to get to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do it now, but like that's the one that has, I think, the best representation of the, like, you have a protagonist, you know who it is. It's Hawk, but you have a bunch of other guys that are also really cool as well. And you're not quite sure who's going to be expendable and who's not. And I think that's probably a better representation. And Wayne, that's also the best representation of bow and arrow action, because you got rapid fire crossbow and you got an elf with a rapid fire bow. I don't even know why you needed a giant and a dwarf. You could just kill whole armies with those two dudes. You know?
So I'm going to pause you, Corey, and let's just
Sure.
jump right into it. Let's get into Hawk the Slayer.
Two blood brothers, out for each other. The firstborn brother, they called him Voltan, the devil's agent, the servant of evil. The second-born brother, they called him Hawk. He had one secret weapon, the ancient power of the Sword of Mind, and he was out for revenge. Two brothers, two armies, two forces of good and evil. Voltan's army, the devil's army, and Hawk's. A dwarf, a giant, an elfin bowman, a witch, and Hawk. Together, they took on the mighty Voltan. Together, they took on the devil's agent. Two blood brothers, with only blood between them. Beyond the edge of darkness, there is a world of sword and sorcery.
So the opening to this episode is the scroll that opens Hawk the Slayer, and because I just thought it was so badass. By the way, side note in regards to what you're saying, Steve, a lot of these movies, that's why I feel like they're so good it's a companion piece to playing D&D with your buddies, because you can be on in the background and maybe get inspired for the DM who's running the campaign.
Yeah, come up with some ideas or something, give you inspiration.
Right. So Hawk the Slayer, really quickly, 1980. It's about two brothers who basically are rivaling each other. There's everything you would want. For me, this was like a perfect campaign for a D&D quest. It's got all the elements, like you said, Corey. It's got the elf, it's got giants. The villain, he wears a sick mask because he's covering up a horrible injury to his face, played by Jack Palance, who, by the way, is 60 years old when this movie was made. And he's looking every bit of it. And not what 60 looks like now, by the way. You look at 60-year-old dudes now and you're like, how is that possible? John Terry plays Hawk. And John Terry, a lot of people, well, Corey and I talked a lot about him on the movie The Resurrected when we covered that movie earlier this year. Yeah. And I love John Terry. Wayne knows him from another show. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's got a cavalcade of characters. It's got a nice little cameo by Augustus Gloop's dad in the Willy Wonka movie, the original, which I thought was kind of fun. And I will hand this over to Corey in just a minute, but I will say the soundtrack, to keep it on the soundtrack tip, is phenomenal.
The best.
I've had that playing. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
It's been playing in my car for like the past 6 months. I just have that. I've downloaded like a 10-minute version of the theme song, and I'm just always playing it. It's so good. It's so silly. And like for a theme song to run the gamut of like, it starts and you're like, this is goofy. And then 30 seconds in, you're like, this is the best song I've ever heard in my life, maybe, is like crazy to me.
I don't know if you've ever heard Justin Hayward. He was from Moody Blues, but Justin Hayward did a musical for War of the Worlds in the 70s. And
the Jeff Wayne.
Yeah, sorry, musical? Jeff Wayne, and I think it was the dude from the Moody Blues as well.
It feels, this theme song feels adjacent to that.
Yeah,
for sure. In terms of like the kind of like silly rock kind of opera-ness to it. It's very charming.
And just so people, are curious, it's Harry Robertson who is the composer for this film. But Corey.
It's wild. And also, I mean, I got to add it's got such a wild cast in it. The giant is played by the guy who plays the Cyclops in Krull. And then at one point they have this little, like, with the elf, they have this little like shoot off, and the guy he's like going against, I'm like, why do I recognize that asshole? He's the captain. He's the captain of the Argonautica in Deep Rising, and I'm like, what the heck? Like 30 years later, But it also has,
that's a deep cut, Corey.
I love Deep Rising. Deep cut for Deep Rising. But it also has Liza from The Beyond is the love interest in it. Was it Katarina McCall? She's the love interest in it. So there's another connection to Fulci as well. But the last thing I want to say is I love I don't even know if they're matte paintings, but they have these like painted backgrounds that almost look, and this is not a bad, like, I don't want to say it negatively, but they're like kind of childlike painted, they're very rudimentary paint.
Yeah, that's fair.
It lends itself to this wonderful charm to it that I love. So I don't say that with any negative connotation. They're just not the same matte paintings that you see in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi or something, on quality wise.
It's like worth mentioning that for all these fantasy movies, and why I wanted to make a fantasy movie in the first place, was like the level of unreality you can get away with in these movies.
Totally.
Like, I feel like the audience acceptance of what they're looking at is way broader than any other type of movie, even like a sci-fi movie or a horror movie. It's like to see a matte painting that's like not necessarily convincing, you're still like, well, it's a fantasy movie. Like, this is the image I'm seeing is fantastical, so it's okay.
Do whatever you want.
And so that's something. Yeah, that's like a great freedom to have as a filmmaker, to be like, well, I just want it to look fun, and I want it to look like handmade, like somebody physically made this thing, like almost like if like this movie is written on a scroll, like an ancient scroll or like an old cave painting. It's like, it's not about modern effects at their peak. It's just about selling the unreality is the reality of the world, if that makes sense.
Also the set dressing, like even when they're in the woods, they put like skeletons like in the trees and stuff. So you always had a sense that there was a battle had happened here before. And I got to give you props, Steve, and Deathstalker. I love because as a kid, my first movie experience was Return the Jedi at 5. And I always loved how there would always be these little side puppets in the corner of the screen and stuff. And like when Deathstalker goes to like throw away the medallion, there's like a little frog monster in the
Oh
corner,
yeah.
and there's the giants, the mountain giants fighting in the background. Like it gave me all the Return of the Jedi vibes with all of that stuff. So I thank you for bringing all those back.
That's the thing I've been missing in movies is I miss you're like in a scene and you have characters, the plot is progressing, the characters are progressing, but I want stuff kind of in the background happening, like just nonsense happening. I'm not talking in a Star Wars special edition kind of way
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's like where you fill the frame up with stuff and you don't even know what's going on at a certain point. I want to be able to look at details that just enrich the world and make it feel lived in and make it feel like, oh, something other stuff was happening here before these characters walk through. They didn't just find a patch of forest and we're like, yeah, just walk through the woods. Like, and that even the scene with the rock giants, I was kind of pulling from Hawk the Slayer because we watched all these movies in the shop while we were building the monsters. And I did clock like, oh yeah, just putting skeletons around like rotten old corpses is a great way to just remind people that like this is a world in turmoil. This is a world where bad stuff is happening constantly, even if our characters aren't stopping at every single thing and being like, a skeleton, it's like it's for the audience to clock and for them to be like, oh, like there's just like a sense of danger you build up with that. So yeah, Hawk the Slayer does it really well.
Yeah, and shout out to you again one more time in regards to like costume design and whatnot, because and that's always something that we look for in movies is like, is this something that would be authentic to the time period that it's taking place in, or the universe that it's taking place in? Unlike seeing a backpack in Phantom Menace and being like, what the hell is Annie wearing a backpack for from Old Navy of all places?
Little orphan Annie.
Yeah. So, and quick casting note I want to say about Hawk the Slayer: William Morgan Shepherd, who plays Ranulph. A lot of people might recognize him from like Elvira. He was, I think, the evil. He was the villain in the Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
He was also in Star Trek too. Yeah.
He's an amazing character actor who's done tremendous roles. But Corey, and I think all three of us can relate to this. He played a Grey Wolf in the Werewolf TV series. And Steve, I don't know if you're aware. I know Wayne is. It always comes back to werewolf whenever we're talking about something.
Fucking love werewolf.
Yeah. But he played a gray wolf in that. So
I've heard of it. I have not seen it. I clearly need to get on this show.
Just watch the first couple of episodes. That's really where it's at. That's
Steve.
Really
watch the whole thing. Steve, watch the whole thing.
Just do that too. Yeah. Wayne, offline when we were picking these movies, and spoiler for everybody, we're not going into more popular territory. Well, we are with one, but we're not talking Conan or Red Sonja. We're talking kind of deep cuts when it comes to 80s movies, because like that's where it was at. Like what the box art was what really drew us in, and we could put, and parents are like, whatever, it's a sword movie, I'll put it on for you. And then little did you know that all these boobs would pop up and the parents would be out of the room because you're playing D&D. Wayne, Hawk the Slayer, you said Star Wars, like Corey, is life for you. And
oh yeah.
What did this movie mean to you back in the day, or does now?
So back in the day, it was one of those movies that it would just kind of like pop on. I remember it. I can't remember if it was like HBO or like Cinemax or something like that, but it was one of those channels where it was like it was just on often, and and it would kind of pop on there. And as a kid, everything was Star Wars to me. So like if I'm watching Clash of the Titans from the side of my head, like I'm over here playing, I'm looking, and I see that metallic owl, I'm going, oh yeah, it's like R2-D2's cousin or something. That Star Wars is on, and I'm constantly, and I always in my head pictured Hawk the Slayer being like a Han Solo like origin movie or something. He's got the vest, he's got that look a little bit, and so like when you're kind of glancing at it as a kid, you're like, oh, is that Han Solo? Where's Chewie? And and you're trying to pick that out. And so that was the case for me all the time. Even when when you see the cover and all that, that's where my love for it kind of has that weird attachment. But it is so much fun to watch, man. It is first off, John Terry, Jack's dad on Lost. That's where he popped back up in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. And so I love Lost start to finish. Fight me. And so it's like one of those things where start to finish, I love that show. And all the all the characters that come out of it. And so when I saw when I get to see that, it was great. The music was fantastic. We talked about that, but then also I gotta tell you, it's the special effects in this movie, while cheesy in 99.9% of it, so cool though.
Yeah,
Those
I agree.
green glowing rings, come on, like how
yeah.
80s
Yeah,
can
I
you
love
get?
those.
Everything about it.
The light balls that come in at the end, you know.
Balls. Oh, that's the silly string.
Yeah.
The silly string in the middle of this movie. I'm like, how ridiculous and awesome
It's awesome.
is Hawk the Slayer? It's so great. There is a sequel graphic novel written by Garth Ennis, of all people.
I'm putting the link in the show
Yes.
notes. Shout out to that, by the way. Yeah.
And so apparently there was like a sequel miniseries written. They put it all together in a graphic novel, and pick it up while you can, because it's one of those things where when I found it on Amazon, it was like 11 copies left or whatever. But
I'm gonna be 10 in just a minute.
yeah, if you want to go further into your Hawk the Slayer lore, and it's written by Garth Ennis. I mean, like, creator of The Boys. And so here you go. But
Wow.
That's amazing. And I'm glad, we wanted to keep it kind of balanced as far as the picks were concerned, because Corey's just about to, I'm going to tee you up, Corey, because we're going to talk about something that gets a little more interesting. The backstory, or maybe the forward story to this movie, and particularly the lead actress, is very interesting. We'll talk about that too. But I agree with you, Wayne. Like, this is the movie that as a kid you wanted. This is the quest you went on. The TSR D&D figures from LJN that they put out. Like, I had that elf, and I thought he was the elf in this. Crow, by the way. Shout out to Crow.
Yeah,
That dude
Crow
rules.
rocks, man. Yeah.
And like, as hokey as some of these things are now, like, you love it. You love it, because you love that at the time it was like so sincere. I would think.
I was gonna say we should have one of my famous draft episodes where we all draft characters from Sword and Sorcery movies. Because if I win the coin toss, I'm picking Crow.
Damn it.
I was just gonna
Fine.
say, I mean, I have no nostalgic connection to Hawk the Slayer, so I've watched it for the first time. 2026. I'm 48 years old, and I freaking loved it. I thought it was an absolute blast. So it doesn't, nostalgic connection doesn't always have to be everything. You can still enjoy these movies now, and so and it's half the reason Zach and I started doing this show is because it's like I want to have more knowledge about cult movies and stuff. And after going on 8 years now, Zach, like I've definitely I feel like Luke Skywalker after I leave Dagobah. I'm like, but I've learned so much, since then,
But I'm not letting you go.
No,
but
never.
I will say, so Steve, Corey, some of these movies sometimes are new to him, and he blows his mind, or it deflates his tires, depending on what movie it is. But one in particular that he's going to talk about is one he's watched a couple times since he dropped it on us. 1985's Barbarian Queen.
Barbarian Queen.
I'll be no man's slave and no man's whore. And if I can't kill them all by the gods, they'll know I've tried.
Wanton warlords sacked her village, violated her sisters, and took her most precious possession.
I'm going to get it back.
Burning with insatiable battle lust, flanked by ravishing women warriors. This she-devil strikes back. White-hot agony sears her flesh. But nothing can deny the climactic moment of her savage desires.
There are some people in this world who will never be your slaves.
And I want her alive. Barbarian Queen.
That's right. So
I have that DVD set. That's
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah,
all the
for a while,
sleaze is yours.
It's the only way you could sort of get Deathstalker 1 and 2.
Come on, Shout Factory, get on.
I know. Well, they are. I mean, we're getting the 4K, but yeah, my wife was out of town, and whenever she's out of town, I watch the most sleaziest stuff I could possibly watch. And at the same time, I was prepping for our Steve's Deathstalker review. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna rewatch 1, and I watched part 2 for the first time. By the way, I loved part 2. And then I watched The Warrior and the Sorceress. Didn't love that. But then I did watch Barbarian Queen. They're all on here on this DVD pack. And I was like, okay, it's sleazy as hell. I mean, it's sleazy as hell.
Exploitation
To the extreme.
Yeah.
But first off, it's 72 minutes. So you blink and it's over with. But what I liked, Lana Clarkson's in it. Dawn Dunlap's in it. She was in, like, I think for Galaxy of Terror and stuff like that. But like what I liked about it was not only was it sleazy, and yes, obviously Lana Clarkson's Barbarian Queen sort of gets into some situations and everything, but she kind of, no guy ever rescues her. She kind of takes care of things herself, even down to the end. Like, she fights the big bad herself at the end. She doesn't technically kill him. Her sister, Dawn Dunlap's character, kills the big bad, but at least it wasn't her betrothed, her would-be husband that got captured. He didn't save her, and I was like, that's kind of impressive. So it's kind of, it's a part of the Roger Corman. It was filmed in Argentina, just like all the, just like, Deathstalker 1 and 2 and everything. And same actors are in it, like that number one bad guy who gets shapeshifted in Deathstalker 1. He's like in all of these movies, that guy with the lips. He does a lot of lip acting when he talks.
Hey, are you that guy with the lips? Yes,
hey,
I
dude,
am.
You're the guy with the lips, right? But there was something there with Barbarian Queen that I was like, it's just a sleazier Red Sonja. It's not as strong. Yeah, we get it. Like, it is sleaze, it is exploitation. I get it. But there was just a little pinch of something strong there that I was like, okay, they're trying something here. But yeah, there's boobs every 4 minutes. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And to be fair, there are male bodies glistening in the sun too. So Frank Zagarino, I think is how you say his last name. He's known for
a hunky boy.
Hunky boy. He's known for the Shadow Chaser movies. And I think there's like 2 or 3 of those. And he's really good. He's like the replacement He-Man. If anybody actually could replace He-Man just in the look, I think he could. Steve, what's your take on Barbarian Queen?
What I'm trying to remember with Barbarian Queen is that the one where they took the footage from Barbarian Queen and used it in Deathstalker 2? Like, isn't there a bunch of battle footage that gets repurposed?
I think so.
And like kind of cycled through a few Corman fantasy movies?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
This is like a fun component of that whole cycle of Corman fantasy flicks, is the like trying to decipher what movie, anything that looks like production value or sounds like production value, like where did that come from originally? Like was it Battle Beyond the Stars theme that pops up in pretty much every subsequent Corman production, because I guess they just they paid for it, so might as well use it.
Might as well.
My experience with Barbarian Queen was watching that DVD set and just kind of working my way through all of the movies, and it being, in my memories of it, just melting into the Warrior and the Sorceress, the David Carradine one. And in my brain, they are kind of interchangeable movies where the Deathstalker 2 on that DVD is what I'm watching constantly. And the other ones are just like lower tier to me. That's
it's true. I mean,
Queen.
Deathstalker 2 is just amazing. Actually, I was on the fence about bringing that one to the table, but I was like, it'll be brought up regardless, I'm sure. I love Deathstalker 2. But yeah, the Warrior and the Sorceress, that was definitely lower tier. I will say, Blade from Masters of the Universe is actually one of the villains in that one, and he was in Roadhouse too. So I think he had a whip or something. But
he was. And I will say, not to defend Corey like you need it, but I will say that this movie Barbarian Queen, I like that you chose it because it is a flip on the script, and it's a revenge tale.
It is
truly like a revenge tale. In I think out of all of them, what sets it apart. And it is cool to see, Lana Clarkson, she did a handful of these movies back in the day. By the way, killed by Phil Spector, and he went to prison for that. And that's your little fun fact for this episode.
Well,
God.
And there's, not to digress into that too far, but like I believe there's a DVD. If you look it up on Amazon, there's a DVD for Deathstalker that mentions her. Like on the cover, it says like featuring Lana Clarkson, like victim of Phil Spector.
Oh my God! Really?
It's insane. Yeah,
wow.
Like look it up, or maybe I'll try to dig it up after and I'll send it.
If you can find it, send it. I'll put it in the episode. That's wild.
Because it's so weird.
Wow.
Talk about capitalizing
Yeah.
on something.
Wayne, what are your thoughts? So Wayne watched this getting his car like fixed at the right?
Yeah, no, I attempted to watch it while I was getting my car fixed, and I was
Don't do that, everybody.
I was like, let me catch up on everything I got to get ready for the episode, and I'm like, what's up next? Barbarian Queen. Turn it on. I'm in the waiting room of this place, and I go, nope.
Like the first 2 minutes, bro. First 2 minutes.
Literally, I'm like,
I was
to
going to subtitle this episode the day that Wayne became a man.
Oh golly! So it's not my usual kind of movie. However, I love a good revenge story, man. And so honestly, it's one of those things where I love one of my favorite stories of all time is the Count of Monte Cristo, and that kind of like revenge kind of stuff. And I don't know what that says about me, but it's just one of those things where I just love that idea of like you take my family, you burn down my village, I'm coming for you, you know. And that was, honestly, I was just like super. That was just a super cool thing, and the outcome of the movie. I know that we spoiled it, just now, but
Whatever.
you're probably not watching it for the plot. But like the idea is that, that the main character, isn't the one that actually scores that final kill. That's pretty impressive too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like, that would have been like if Inigo Montoya is the one that actually like if he killed the prince instead of them leaving him as he is. But
right.
It's just one of those things where for me, that's the cool part of it. But yeah, don't recommend watching it in public, in a waiting room, on a plane, not in a park, not
Yeah, unless you want to get
Under
arrested.
the cover of night.
I will say that if you just want to skip to the third act with the Renaissance Fair fight at the end, it is pretty epic, and it really. I'm watching that going, I would love to see that go down at a real Ren Fair one of these days. How come we don't see that, And by the way, Ren Fairs in the 80s, so much better than they are now. It's just not the same anymore. So Wayne, we're going to save yours, I think, for last, probably because it's the most masterful. But I want to jump into 1983. Besides Conquest, also saw Fire and Ice came out.
In an age of myth and legend, the world trembles before the power of Necron, master of evil, ruler of ice. Against him stand Tigra, princess of Firekeep, and captive of the ice demons, Larn, last of a mighty warrior tribe, and her only hope of escape. And Dark Wolf, mysterious avenger, and sworn enemy of the Ice Tyrant. Their courage will be tested. The challenge must be met. The final battle between the armies of the cold and the keepers of the flame is about to begin. Fire and Ice. From the visual imagination of Ralph Bakshi and the dazzling artistry of Frank Frazetta, a fantasy adventure from 20th Century Fox.
Fire and Ice is a Ralph Bakshi film, and features the art of Frank Frazetta. And it doesn't get any 80s, more epic than that. Again, this film, the plot is kind of all over the place a little bit, but it features, we mentioned earlier, one of the main characters of Dark Wolf. I love this movie from my childhood. I didn't realize kind of how sleazy it was back then, because I didn't look at cartoons that way. I do remember seeing the one about the rabbit, where he was like, it was basically a porno. What was the rabbit one? No, it was, oh God, people are going to...
Wait, you try to say Watership Down?
Not Watership Down. Anyways, it'll come to me. But no, it was like, it was like, there was a lot of animated porn back in the day, or on close to that level. This isn't. This is just exploitation, but it's Frazetta's art come to life, and it's all rotoscoped, and you don't know what that is, then you're not an 80s kid, because He-Man and the Masters of the Universe featured that so heavily, and it was beautiful. Filmation in general did that with Black Star and Flash Gordon back in the day. But Fire and Ice is just it's just aesthetically so pleasing. It is one of those movies you put on the background, you can constantly turn and go, oh my god, I love this movie. There was a toy line back in the day that I was tripping over, and I sent this to Corey because I'm like, Fire and Ice reminded me of a toy line. There was a toy line that came out called The Other World. It's by Arco Toys in 1982, and I'll put some images on the screen. These are like bendable D&D guys, and they had like holes to hold the swords. And one of the main characters in that toy line is literally Larn, the main character in this movie. And I'm like, I had Larn as a kid. They were the bendable ones. I don't know if you guys had those, but they had epic, dragons and villains and whatnot. But Fire and Ice, love that movie. I still do. It's getting a 4K release from Blue Underground, I believe. Steve, what's your take on Fire and Ice?
That movie, to me, it's just such an insane relic and time capsule of what filmmaking was back in that era and what it will unfortunately never be again.
Right.
The idea of doing an entire movie rotoscoped, like you're essentially like making the movie twice, where you're shooting actors in wardrobe, like doing all the actions, all the behaviors, and then just animating over that again is like, I think about trying to pitch that to like executives now and just being laughed out of the room, being like, yeah, that sounds expensive. Take a hike. Like, it's not feasible now. So I don't know, just the artistry of that movie is so impressive to me. I am a little disappointed in how like I find I'm not super engaged in it anytime I watch it.
Right.
It's that problem I was talking about before where I'm like, I don't really know like who am I rooting for here?
Right.
Like I get a little lost in the narrative a bit. So it is like Conquest. It's a vibe movie to me that I like to put on.
Totally.
It's a great like background thing while I'm working because the artistry is so like front and center that it just every frame is impressive and amazing. And it just has so many like little fantasy elements to it that I love. I love the like corpse that like comes to life.
Yes.
And they're chatting with any scene where somebody like brings a corpse to life and tries to get information out of it, I love. I actually thought the newest Dungeons and Dragons movie did that really well, and that scene is amazing. I fully endorse that movie. I thought it was actually really awesome, and that scene especially, I was like, oh, this is like that part in Fire and Ice a little bit. Like,
yeah, and I will say a quick shout out to the people who made the Dungeon and Dragon movie. And little fun fact: so my son's DM, he's had the same DM for about 5 years now, Simon Alexander. He's been playing Dungeons and Dragons on and off since he was 5. And Simon was my student when I was a kindergarten teacher back in the day. He's now 23 or 24, living in New York. So he zooms in. He works at a D&D like coffee shop basically, which I think is so amazing. But he was the on-set DM for the kids when they were making that D&D movie, and the writer loved him so much they renamed one of the main characters Justice Smith after Simon. So his name Simon in the movie is because of my kid Simon Alexander. So shout out to Simon.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is blew my mind. And I agree, that scene in that D&D movie is epic. And that film is a lot of fun. It's not Deathstalker because it's a little long, and Deathstalker is just a perfect amount of time. But anyways, I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, you got to chase that John Carpenter 90 minutes. I mean, I think Deathstalker came to 94 or something, which,
good,
I think watching it again, I think I could shave a bit off here and there. But yeah, I mean, the new-ish Dungeons and Dragons movie, it is just a symptom of modern tentpole movies now, where it feels like that they just have to stuff so much in that it has to be 2 hours,
right?
Which is like, no, you can make a tight 87-minute movie and have it be a good time. Like
that's what you do with sequels. And I'll say this,
Zach and I just reviewed, well, actually at this point it was a couple months ago, but The Last Days on Mars, which is like this sci-fi zombie movie with Liev Schreiber. And it's nice because, it's like 90 minutes and you totally expect a movie like that to be like 2 hours long. So we got to put all this stuff in, but it's nice and streamlined. It's just a streamlined film, and it doesn't get bogged down with a bunch of different BS and just gets right to the good stuff. So yeah, I mean, Zach and I always champion the 90-minute film, but 72 minutes for Barbarian Queen, that's pretty perfect too.
Well, and Fire and
Tough
Ice
to
is
beat that.
Fire and Ice is pretty short. And before anyone drives off the side of the road because they're like bunny porn movie, it was Fritz the cat, so it was a cat,
Fritz.
not a bunny. So yeah,
Okay.
That's what was in my head when
Sorry.
you were saying that. I was
Yeah,
like,
bunny,
I think
cat.
it's wrong.
I was thinking of the bunnies in One Crazy Summer that John Cusack's character Hoops kills, when he draws them and he kills them or whatever with a submachine gun. Anyways, Corey, you were saying that maybe Fire and Ice is the sleaziest of all these, right?
It's weirdly so. It's a PG cartoon. It's crazy. So I grew up watching heavy metal a ton. I also watched Wizards a lot too. So as far as Ralph Bakshi goes, Wizards is my preferred. I did watch Fire and Ice as a kid, but not as much. And it's at this point, it had been like 25 years. So I'm watching it now. And like, first off, Steve, I agree with you. Like, I'm like not as engaged with the story on this one, which is why I probably did watch Wizards more growing up. I think it's a more interesting just story in and of itself. It has something to say. I don't know what Fire and Ice has to say other than the fact of look at me, I'm absolutely beautiful, like I'm stunning. My artwork is just
all you gotta do.
ridiculous. Yeah, and it's a vibe movie. Just put it on in the background. But like you go and look at behind the scenes footage, and the lady who plays Tigra doesn't look anything like they made choices. They voluptuous her up, in the movie. But then you got William Ostrander, who played, evil John Travolta and Christine, and he's playing multiple characters in this.
He's
and the
amazing,
main character, he's playing the main character, which is really cool. But yeah, you look at behind the scenes stuff, he's wearing the blonde wig and stuff. They're all wearing the outfits. It's just there's no background. They're like in a gymnasium almost, it looks like. And yeah, the idea of filming a movie twice, essentially, it's kind of like what they did with Tron, having to color in every single frame. It's just as an 80s kid, I will always mark out for rotoscoping. I love, love, love rotoscoping as an artwork. It's lost now, unfortunately. It seems like it is. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's worth watching, Fire and Ice, if you've never seen it. But it's weird that there's not a lot of meat on the bone. There's almost like 15 minutes goes by at the beginning of the movie where not even a single piece of dialogue was even like said. And I'm just like, okay. And there's comic books now. They do put out, I think it's IDW, but I'm not sure, but there is an ongoing comic book, and they got a Tigra miniseries and stuff like that. So it's like, it's there. I'm happy for it. I'm happy that it exists, but I think I would rather watch Wizards over Fire and Ice.
Yeah, and Necron is a great villain, but who creates ice with his orgasms, basically.
Sure does. Sure does.
So Wayne, your take on Fire and Ice, and then we'll get to your movie, which is gonna take us home.
You always come to me right after those incredible statements.
It's what I do. It's what I do. All right, kids. Today we're gonna learn about icicles.
All right. I really enjoyed the animation out of it. I love rotoscope. I love that whole style of things. Right away, I didn't need to be told that Frank Frazetta was involved, because you just saw it. Like, what I mean? It's so distinctive. Speaking of comic book connections, more comic book connections on this one. Jerry Conway and Roy Thomas were writers on this movie. And so we just lost Jerry Conway a little while ago. And so, again, it's like, we got comic book royalty, left and right, almost as if, the style of Sword and Sorcery lends itself to that comic book writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say this, that another one of those peripheral, I don't know if it's just like silly kid stuff with me, but every time I saw Fire and Ice, or every time it was on or flipping the channel and I saw, Dark Wolf, right?
Yeah, Dark Wolf. Yeah.
Every time I saw him, I was like, Batman? Like, is that Batman? Is that Barbarian
Totally.
Batman? And then get this, they release an Elseworlds comic, Batman the Barbarian, right? And who does he look like, folks?
Wow. He looks like Dark Wolf.
Dark Wolf. Come on. And I mean, it's like chicken or the egg. I don't know, but. Again, it's just, it all comes right back to it. It's like my brain was telling me that could be Batman, and then later on it is Batman.
It is. It is. And I will say really quickly in regards to Fire and Ice, and it's had deep connections, I think, across genres. And Frank Frazetta, there is a line of toys now that look just like his paintings, which is so epic. And I encourage anybody, like if you're a toy collector, comic book collector, like spread the word. Get those. They're endorsed by the family. I know that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So the last movie of the day of the episode is the most mainstream. We're celebrating Masters of the Universe. Besides, go out and get Deathstalker on 4K. The links are in the show notes for everybody. You got to buy this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, it's going to blow your mind. If you have seen it, you have to own the physical copy because that's where it's at. Masters of the Universe, the new one came out a little while back. And Wayne's choice was Masters of the Universe from 1987, which happens to be one of my favorite years of the 80s.
Across time. Across the galaxy. A hero is coming. To save us all. Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV is He-Man. Frank Langella is Skeletor. Masters of the Universe. Live the adventure. Rated PG. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Wayne, talk about it. I mean, we're just basically going to share our gush of love or things we didn't like about it. Your thoughts?
So I'm going to start off with this statement. Hear me out, okay? Because I picked the 87 Masters of the Universe because I think that it is a fun sword and sorcery movie in spite of it being a He-Man adaptation. So like if you took He-Man out of it, I mean, if you took the Masters of the Universe of it all out, it is a fun sword and sorcery movie for all ages, right? And so it's like you got, you without the IP, right? You have the dark fantasy world. You have the sorcery / sci-fi technology gadget that they're all after. There's cosmic magic, there's teleportation, there's a sword. It's just, there's so many different, things. It's just that combo of like the weird technology and the crazy looking villain. I mean, Frank Langella's Skeletor is so much fun. At the end of that movie, when he turns into, gold Skeletor, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That visual, look at him. And I remember as a kid going, my mom specifically going, that's Dracula. And she was so impressed with, she's like, oh my, she went to go see the movie with me because she's like, Dracula is Skeletor. Okay, that's great. And then we went to go like see it together. And I just remember that whole experience of, this is something wild. As a kid, I'm watching it and I'm going, that's not He-Man. Where's Orko? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm kind of, even that was the first movie I ever picked apart as a nerd fan, right? Because I'm going, this doesn't look anything like my cartoon. But as an adult, the amount of times I've rewatched this movie and gone, this is so much fun. And if you forget the fact that it's not Masters of the Universe, even though it is Masters of the Universe, you literally have this like family friendly Conan style, fantasy, thing going on. And so that's why I always kind of go like, hear me out on this. But it's got all the elements and it's there. And I would say it's just as fun as Hawk the Slayer.
I agree. I agree.
And it's got all the crazy characters. And if you get past that's not Beastman,
right.
then you kind of can go, oh, okay. Like now that I'm an adult, I could kind of turn that part off and go, that's fun.
Yeah, Steve, I'm going to let you go for it because I'll chime in at the end. Steve, your thoughts on Masters?
This is one of my favorite movies. I mean, I was at the perfect age for this, where I was a little young. Like I kind of missed out on the heyday of He-Man, so I didn't really have the attachment I think that a lot of genre fans had at the time. So to me, like He-Man was this movie more so than the cartoon or the toys. And I mean, there's so many elements to this that are they're just burned into my psyche so hard that they're finding their ways into every movie I make. Like there's so many tropes in here that I love. I love like the rogues gallery of monster villains that gets sent after He-Man, after the Cosmic Key, the MacGuffin, even just that, the MacGuffin of the Cosmic Key is
Right.
such a like classic trope to me, and like something that finds its way into all my films. Like Psycho Goreman is definitely a riff on this film.
Oh yeah,
And
totally.
in terms of like just the hard commitment of, well, we can't exist in this fantasy universe all the time, so let's just go to Earth for some of it and tease this bigger universe all the time. And I know that's a thing people bump on that with Masters of the Universe, where they're like, oh, we're like barely in Eternia. But rewatching it, like we put it on in the shop the other day and watched it again, and this was the first time I really clocked that, like, oh, this movie's like only getting better with age, because that thing everyone bumped on at the time of like, oh, it's taking place, they're jumping to like modern suburbia, like Pasadena or wherever they are. But that, now that we're like so many years past that, now the nostalgia for that era of time as well has, it's like you're just jumping from one fantasy universe to another to me
Yeah.
now, where it's like, well,
Yes.
we're just going to like 80s, like 80s LA, like that in itself is like a fun world to be in. And so I think that this movie has aged really well because of that, because now it's, the nostalgia works on multiple levels for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to Skeletor's glow up at the end is a trope that I always lean into, where your bad guy needs a secondary form. You have his look for the movie, but then he has to have a boss monster look, and his like fabulous gold outfit is such. I wish I would make a whole movie just about the costume designer coming up with that look and being like, how do we make him like crazier? Like, how do we make him imposing and like intimidating to He-Man? It's like, well, what if he was like shiny and gold and like had huge horns, and there was nothing practical about this look whatsoever?
Yeah, the idea of taking something and making it all gold and like, really showing like your it's really kind of embarrassing nowadays when you see something that's all gold and people who just want to put gold everywhere in their house.
Yeah,
white
it is
and
a
gold,
little-
or like a gold phone or something like, I don't know.
I see
It
what
just-
you did there, Zach.
Yeah,
I see
sorry.
what you did there.
But shout out to Super 7, by the way. They don't make them anymore, but they made movie accurate figures based on Skeletor or He-Man, and I have that gold Skeletor. That
man.
it is a prized possession of mine, and the Dolph He-Man, which I always wanted back in the day, and I own it, and I still can play with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think speaking of costumes, I mean, even Evil Lynn's costume, Meg Foster's Meg Foster, what did I say, Forster? Meg Foster's costume is amazing.
Agreed.
The detail in that thing is just crazy. I as a kid I always liked it, and I have a huge Evil Lynn fetish, also Baroness fetish. I like bad girls. But
This is not we're not getting into this on this episode.
no, Steve, let me tell you about my fetishes. No,
I gotta say, Corey, I just want to say, like, fully agree with you. And I said this as we were watching in the shop. I was like, oh, that's where that comes from. Like, seeing Meg Foster with her, like, just over the top eyeliner and eyeshadow, and just that whole vibe is great. And
oh my god,
it definitely started with that movie.
I was more of a Tila guy. Sorry, Chelsea Fields just did it for me.
Yeah, we did talk to Chelsea Field a couple of years
sure
ago,
did.
which is really cool. I would love to have a toy
It's a
of
good look too.
Yeah, it's really cool. But so I love, as a kid, I remember seeing it, and I mean, I was the perfect age. I mean, I was born in '78, so I was the perfect age for the TV show He-Man and everything. My dad even took me to that He-Man not on ice, but it was like a stage show or whatever. It was amazing. I loved it. So as a kid, I didn't quite love
the Power Tour.
Yeah, that I went and saw that. Yeah, it was crazy. But so again, going back to Return of the Jedi, I saw that when I was 5, and I was like, oh, Boba Fett's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, and he's dead. So I was like, okay, that sucked. And then I watch He-Man, and I'm like, I guess 9 years old when He-Man comes out, and I'm like, oh, Sauron is the coolest dude in the whole arsenal of and he's dead. And so I've kind of, it's been my theme, my running theme in life, that every character that I think is super cool is gonna die like immediately. And almost since birth, I've been informed by that, thanks to Boba Fett and Sauron.
Well, I think in the case of that, like Lizard Man, it was definitely a budget thing where they're like, we can only put this guy in the makeup so many times.
Right.
So let's wrap this up, and he's the guy that gets offed.
But I mean, like at 40, 48-year-old me understands that. 9-year-old me is totally Greta Thunberg. How dare you? How dare you show that to me and then take it away?
I think that's also why we don't see a merman, because, of all the things we can't do an underwater sea creature. Maybe we'll see that with the movie. Oh, we did. Wasn't it amazing when Merman came out?
Great. Oh, yeah.
And shout out, by the way, to James Tolkien, who plays Lubbock. I think it's Lubbock. His Lubeck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lubeck.
yeah.
And James Tolkien, by the way, rest in peace to that guy. Love that guy, an amazing character actor, and he really brings. That's the part of it. You hit the nail on the head, Steve, with like the blend of the '80s modern aesthetic at that time, which is such a time capsule moment for us. And I think that's why this movie has a greater appreciation and love now, because back then people were like, oh, I just go down the street and I see that.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's different. It's changed. And Wayne, yeah.
And the wrap up of that movie where he's like, Lubbock, he's like, I'm staying here. I'm not going back home. Are you kidding me? It's like he's got the toga on, he's got all, and it's just like it was so perfect just in that kind of like ending, because again, it's like, yeah, you got these two worlds that are crossing over, and you got the one guy that's like, no, Earth isn't all that. It's I'm staying here in Eternia where I'm somebody, you know what I mean? Or and the whole blend from start to finish, even though you kind of again, it's like if you grew up with this with the He-Man stuff and you're kind of starting to pick that off as like little kid me, 10-year-old me looking at it going, that's not, no, where's the thing? But then when you kind of flip the switch and you're watching this now as as that adult, and I'm going like, at the end of the day, everybody was there, that kind of mattered, right? Every little beat was there.
Yeah.
And they all played their role. I would love to have a D&D campaign that was Masters of the Universe base, right? Like, just kind of
totally
those guys. I would love to be able to be in that, and kind of dive into that world even more so. So that was the thing for me, is like when I picked it, when I first heard Sword and Sorcery, I was like, what better sword, than the power sword, to pull out.
It is the most iconic. It is definitely the most iconic and the best one out of all of the ones that we've seen in these movies.
Yeah, when it comes to Sword and Sorcery. And by the way, just so in context, Orko was not in every episode of He-Man. Neither was Battle Cat. Obviously he didn't have Battle Cat in this movie, and I think I was like, where's Battle Cat? I did the same thing you did, Wayne. Where's Man at Arms? Where's Zodak? Or Man at Arms obviously is there. Many Faces, I meant to say that. Zodak or whatever, but these characters weren't always in there. By the way, I'm glad Stratos wasn't in there, because it's like Winged Man. We don't need Stratos. Yeah. Anyways,
wasn't the Orko thing, wasn't that an issue with, was it Filmation that did the animation?
Yes.
Like, wasn't that a Filmation creation? So
I believe
they
so.
couldn't use it in the movie.
And
so they came up with, Gwildor?
Gwildor.
Yep.
Pretty great
still an
character,
issue.
I gotta say.
That's the thing too, is like, he's still a Filmation character, and so it's one of those things where who knows? We've seen the movie, we know the answer to that, but the question months ago was, is he going to be in this movie, or even can he be?
So the Gwildor, this magazine is the He-Man Masters of the Universe magazine from 1987, after the movie came out, and I actually did an episode on this where I 11-year-old me made an audio book at the time, and I actually posted on our YouTube, so go check that out, everybody. You can watch that now. Masters of the Universe is pretty much the epic way to close this out, and I agree. It's got the swords, the sorcery, all that stuff.
Well, I really did want to really quick tie into Deathstalker.
Please,
on the review, on the review we said it for Steve's Deathstalker, the 2025 one. It feels, and this is what I sell people on. I'm like, it's like a rated R He-Man,
right?
And it's just also to the fact that, like, it feels like Eternia. It's unlike the first two Deathstalkers, Steve. Yours actually feels like an alien world. It doesn't feel like Earth, because even in Deathstalker 2, they make allusions to like Attila the Hun and stuff. I'm like, okay, so is this Earth?
Yeah, these weird like pop culture references that are very Jim Wynorski, but maybe a little kind of undermining the fantasy universe for sure.
Yeah, and like yours even has like an almost a Manny Faces kind of villain, the rock guy in it and everything. So when I tell people about it, I'm like, it's a rated R He-Man. Go check it out. And if you haven't seen Steve's Deathstalker reimagining, I don't even know if you want to call it a remake, because you could even say all the Deathstalkers are just different stories being told about Deathstalker, you know, from different points of views and everything. But the 2025 version, if you like He-Man and you're of the age that we all are now, it's a rated R He-Man. Go check it out.
If you're watching this show, you're gonna watch it.
No, yeah.
If you
I
haven't
hope you've
already.
already seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Steve, thank you so much for joining. You're officially a Night Boy now, so we're gonna have to get you some Night Boy merch, 80s Kids Unite Night Boy merch to send out to you.
Just one more quick thought on the He-Man movie, on Masters of the Universe. It's worth mentioning. Could we just dunk on Man-at-Arms for a second?
Oh, I was trying not to. Yeah.
Like, watching it again, I was like, wow, they really just like cast an old guy with a mustache and put a like plastic helmet on him, and we're like, there you go. Like, that's the character, right?
Let's dig into that. Master, really quickly, Man-at-Arms, he's Teela's father in the cartoon series. At least in the cartoon series, he's him and Sorceress had a relationship before she was Sorceress. This is all from the cartoon, and they didn't dig into any of that. He's the only one, and you know, there's no Prince Adam in this, and you know, he's the one who knows his alter ego, and yeah, it was disappointing.
But the Sorceress is Ross and Monica's mom from Friends. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, talk about whole deflating sales. Whoa, and Wayne has the sword of actually She-Ra's sword on his arm.
Right. I got
that's awesome.
That's yeah. I have She-Ra's sword because the dog of my life, her name was She-Ra, and so for 14 years I had this amazing lab who was my right hand dog and all that, and so in tribute to her, I got the She-Ra sword, She-Ra version of that because it has the jewel in there. But
oh, that's so cool.
And she's the other part of that lore, man. It's like, I hope, you know, again, we already saw the movie. I'm so excited with what they did with
awesome.
She-Ra.
All those teases, yeah. Can't believe they put Snoutspout in there, the elephant.
Stay for the end credits.
Yeah. Steve, this was rad, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. And listeners and watchers, what are your favorite sword and sorcery movies from the 80s? Let us know in the comments. Have you seen Deathstalker yet? And let us know what you thought. Are you going to go watch Deathstalker? Yeah, go let us know if you're going to order it or not. Links are in the show notes to do that. To get the Conquest from Cauldron, I'll put the links in there too. They're not sponsoring us. We're not getting paid or whatever. It's just we love this stuff. We are all about nostalgia and all about like celebrating the positivity that this amazing decade, the 80s, brought us. Like, we wouldn't have these gems, and it wouldn't have inspired what Steve did with his movies. So lots to thank in this episode. And so, Steve, thanks for being part of it.
Thanks for having me, guys. I am always down to nerd out about this kind of stuff. This was a good time. Love to do it again.
Well, then we'll do a Satanic Panic, or we are going to do some cyborg stuff in the future.
Yeah,
you know, we got to get into
do some 80s. Cyborg stuff. I don't know if you guys have done a series on like mech movies yet, like Robot Jocks or Robot Wars or that stuff, but
definitely down.
Like that's a topic worth diving into.
Hell yeah,
absolutely. My God!
Thanks
by the
again,
power
Steve.
of Grayskull,
awesome,
by the power of Deathstalker, this episode rocked. I'm so happy that we did it. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was great, and we'll happily do it again. Just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
You've all seen how Orko's magical tricks don't always go the way he planned. Sometimes they backfire on him. The same thing is true of practical jokes. Sometimes they don't go the way you planned, and you or someone else can get hurt. So be sure and think twice before playing a joke or a trick on anybody. Might not go the way you planned, and someone could wind up losing a finger or an arm or maybe even an eye. And no joke is worth that, is it? See you again soon.
Just when you think there's no one around who's caring, along comes a friend who offers a hand in sharing. Then things start looking fine. Sometimes tears and sorrow are all the things you've got. Just when you think you're all by yourself, you're not.
80s Kids Unite is brought to you by Hungry Hungry Hippos, the loudest tabletop game in history. And by Nickelback, Zach's favorite band. If you'd like to suggest topics for this show, go to the Patreon of either $2 Late Fee or Podcasting After Dark, or both. All links are in the show notes. We love you.